So we're here to talk today about building confidence in your data quality. And I have a clicker somewhere, but I'm Reuben. I'm the PM for CI and orchestration here at DBT Labs. But really for the next 25 minutes, you can call me Gary Ferrari, the chef, owner, and master data wrangler of an ever-expanding empire of restaurants right here in Las Vegas. So today, we're going to walk through a real example of data quality in my restaurants, why it matters to the business, how DBT helps go from deployment to testing to production, and really talk about advanced CI and how we can catch bad changes before they make it into production, how unit testing can ensure that data conforms to the specifications from the inputs through to the outputs you should get across your data pipelines, how you can use data trust tiles to communicate the quality of that data and the passing of those tests and freshness checks to all of your stakeholders, and finally, how model-level notifications can ensure that I'm the first one, or all of you, as the data practitioners, are always the first one to know if something really does go up in flames. So buckle up as we dive into some data drive-ins and dives. So now you've been in Vegas for, I think, 4 days now. Maybe you've had a chance to dine at some of my famous restaurants. We have Gary Ferrari's Vegas Kitchen and Bar, and then my personal favorite, Tasty City. And at Tasty City, we like our food the same way we like our data, high quality, well-tested, and always fresh. And why this really matters is that by modeling our incoming orders, our menus, and our supplies, we can track what really matters, which is our customers. And because this customer targeting is such a vital part of the business's success, we need to ensure quality across that entire pipeline for our data. And so, most recently, I opened my newest restaurant, now the 4th in Las Vegas, Tasty Town Sports Kitchen. And because it's Vegas, we're serving up famous dishes like my donut burgers and my trash can nachos. And so, let me tell you, opening a restaurant is no small fry. Restaurants are a really hard business, and getting that new business off the ground really requires getting customers in the door. Margins are thin, and the first few weeks really spell the difference between long-term profitability or yet another failed restaurant. And I don't want to mention any names, but my friend Wolfman Luck down the road hasn't had so much luck recently. And so, in our campaign to get Tasty Town Sports Kitchen off the ground, we decided to target our regulars with a voucher for their favorite meal and drink. But a data error had us on the verge of deleting records for almost 1,000 of our most loyal customers. Luckily for us, we caught it just in time, and I'm here to walk you through it. And so, ensuring data quality across our pipelines really starts with continuous integration. Before any code change gets merged, it goes through linting and then through CI. And so, in order to figure out that favorite menu item and that favorite drink item for all of our loyal customers, we want to go ahead and create that new customer ranked favorites model. And as we say in the restaurant business, here's one I prepared earlier. And now that we have that model, we can go through and we can figure out for each of our customers what's the most ordered item, and in the case of a tie, simply take the most profitable one, which is unfortunately still pretty low with our margins. And if we make sure that runs, we can see the records there and then jump over into our main customer targeting model, bring in that same data as a new CTE, and then go through and add those new columns. And so the column for our favorite food, we want to add in there, that same new column for our favorite drink. And then, because we want to add this to our key customer targeting, we can join that on just like we did for the rest of our customer intelligence information, right? So now we've joined on that new main and that new drink. We can go ahead and check that runs, and we kind of see for some of our top customers, like Nicholas here. We have our almost 5 grand in orders, and a real penchant for my Fun Gary sandwich and the banana whiskey buzz. And so we can go ahead and we can commit that code, and we can add in this new targeting for our Tasty City Sports opening. And so as we go and commit that PR, we really want to be sure of 2 things, right? The first is this going to build? And the second thing we want to be sure of is, what is this going to build? Not just, are we building changes, but are we building the correct changes? And so with this new advanced CI directly in our pull request, we can go through and see that indeed, yes, our CI job has built, and that looks great. I did fail linting, but I'm a chef, not a, could work on MySQL a little. But we see here, when we look at what actually got changed, we can see what we expected, right? 2 new columns, 1 modified, that sounds okay. But we see 1,093 removed primary keys. And so we can jump in straight from Git into dbt Cloud and try and figure out what's going on there. And so as we expected, we can see this customer targeting model was the only modified one in our PR. We see those 2 new columns added, 1 modified. We can jump in and see, as we expect, we have that new favorite food column, that new favorite drink, and just a change in our column position for that customer type. But jumping over to our primary keys, we can see a sample of what were those deletions, right? We see we lost 35% of our most loyal customers, and as we saw, we were simply trying to add new targeting so we could go and target those people for our Tasty Town Sports opening. And so in order to try and figure out what's going on there, we can actually jump in to one of these sample records. We can take the key for that customer, jump back over into the IDE, and try and figure out, where did I go wrong? And so we can go back and select that same data from our customer ranked favorites model. And rather than looking at all of it, we can simply look at that single ID and see if we can figure out what went wrong. And so running this for that single customer, we can see the 5 return rows there, right? Almost 1,000 purchases across that customer's lifetime. But we also notice that every single one of these is a drink order, right? Everything from my famous barbecue Bloody Mary through to the Loco Coco margarita. And the issue there is when we went and copied that, we didn't account for the fact that someone could have only food or only drink. We assumed customers would have both. And really, what should have been a left outer join, we simply blindly copied from our previous one with an inner join. And so we ended up losing almost 1,000 records. And by seeing the comparison of this before and after state, we can go back and fix those changes, run our PR again, and then ensure that as we expect, we see the changes to the columns, and then hopefully this time, no changes through to those rows. And so this time we can jump back in, we can see the branch we're working on, we can see the latest run from that PR, and then jumping into that run and looking at the compare tab this time, we see, as we expected, that same customer targeting modification, those 2 added columns, the 1 modified column, and then no changes to our primary key. And so now that we feel good about this, we can go ahead and commit this into production. And so Advanced CI is now available in GA across all of our customers, and linting is currently in beta. And that linting step means, I'm sure as many of you know, as a pre-commit before you actually go through and run any of those comparisons in CI, you can actually make sure your code conforms to the quality standards you've set forth through your own SQL fluff file, through the default configuration, really whatever you prefer. And now that we've gone and figured out what the error was, what we really want to do is ensure that this never happens again. And I can think about that as strengthening my data quality pipelines through something like a unit test. These let us validate the SQL modeling logic on a small set of static inputs before we go and materialize that full view into production. And so jumping back into our customer targeting, we can add this additional testing into the Ferrari project so that the only reason to lose customers is really their lack of taste buds. So jumping into our customer targeting model, we can go ahead into that YAML and create that new unit test. And what this really says is that for a sample of our customers, it checks whether they have both a food and a drink order, perhaps only a food order, or perhaps only a drink order. Regardless, as this passes from our stage customers and our orders models down to our customer ranked favorites and our customer targeting, it checks that for a given set of inputs, the outputs conform to what we'd expect. And so when customers do get their ranked favorites, they appear regardless of having one or the other. And now we've gone and fixed this. We've already put this through production. We can go just ensure before we submit this that unit test is indeed passing. We see that that is. And now we've strengthened our data pipelines as people are developing against those kind of edge cases. And so unit tests allow you to create those specific edge cases that take into account the actual shape of the data. And they mean that you can strengthen your data pipelines for anyone contributing to it. And so if someone else on my team goes through to make the same change and makes a similar mistake, this time they're going to catch it before they even have to run that continuous integration process. And so these are GA. They're available both in core and cloud. And you should go ahead and create some. Probably soon available through some of our dbt Copilot as well. And then really, for this data quality to be truly useful, what kind of matters is that not just I and the immediate data team know about the tests and what's passing and the state of that data, but that everyone across the organization, from marketing to finance to our account teams, know what the state of that data is. And so in order to target our customers for that brand new opening of Tasty City, we saw that all of that model data gets fed through into that final customer targeting data. And from there, it turns out that actually goes into a Tableau dashboard. And that Tableau dashboard is what's used by our marketing and our growth teams to go and do that targeting. And so we can see we have that automatic exposure defined that's been brought through to our customer targeting model. And what we want to do is go and create a health tile so that it's not just people working directly in dbt Cloud that can see that state, but it's anyone using the data can see the state of it. And so we can see right now that with our freshness checks and those 28 tests we have that lead down into that customer targeting model are all passing. And we can go ahead and embed this tile to communicate that quality across all of our stakeholders. And so if we go and select the data health tile option, we've already gone and created a metadata token here, and we can copy that URL. And then we can go directly from our automatically defined exposure through to Tableau and see that same view that those marketing and those growth teams are using. And we can go and simply embed that same exposure directly into Tableau. And so we can create a web page in there, put in that URL. This is also available as an iframe, and so you can actually go and put it anywhere you want customers to see that quality. And that'll, in real time, every time we have production runs, every time we have those dbt tests run, go and push from dbt Cloud all the way through to that end state where your data is being consumed. And these are, again, available now across all of our customers in dbt Cloud. And really why this matters is that a lot of data work functions on trust. And we believe that these health tiles build trust by aligning the analysts and the developers and the end data users to have that same shared view of data quality and to have that immediate view when things do go wrong to not go and use that data in the meantime. Finally, if the kitchen does catch fire, we believe that the chef should always be the first one to know. And so model level notifications let you specify the model owner in code in that groups.yaml, and then specify the owners of those groups. And then you can get real-time alerts for failing models, for failing and warning tests, if you really want to, even for skipped or completed models, directly to your email as the owner of that model. And these are really important because, like we saw with CI, code changes are one way for bad data to enter, but the reality is that a lot of those data errors actually come from the pipelines too, right? And so whether you have duplicated data coming through or bad values coming through, when those come, you want to ensure that you're always the first one to know. And so by setting up the groups config, you can specify who owns each of those models. And so in this case, it's only me, but we can go ahead and turn on those model notifications, both for warnings and failures. And then because I'm the owner of the model, when that data does come through and there's a failing test or a warning test or even a failing model, even before that run is finished, I'm going to get an immediate notification as the owner there straight through to my email. And so we're kind of faking it here a little, but let's imagine some bad data came in. We failed that build. And as soon as that happened, we get an immediate notification so that I can be the first one to know and I can be the one to go and fix it. And so these notifications are in real time. They mean you'll get an email as soon as it happens rather than waiting that 1 hour or that 8 hours even for the job to finish. And they're available in beta as of this week. Finally, when we think about data quality, what we really think about is something we call guardrails and not gates. And so rather than shutting everyone off and saying only specific people can contribute to your data pipeline, what we want to do is allow everyone to contribute, but put the guardrails in place so that only the right changes make it through. And so we see that with advanced CI testing what goes into production, with those tests across our data pipelines, meaning we're continuously running and making sure that right data is coming through, with those data health tiles to communicate that status through to our stakeholders, and then with those model notifications so that when things do go wrong, the data team and those data owners can always be the first ones to know. And so that's everything from me, and I'm happy to open up to any questions.
Yeah, I saw that you could click and get the URL for the health tiles. Is there a way to bulk extract them when you have thousands of models?
Yeah, so there is not right now, but I think it's a great piece of feedback. We could definitely do that. I think especially combined with automatically defined exposures, that could be really useful. I'd worry a little bit on the manual side because then you're the one keeping up to date that lineage with those thousands of models, but that's a great piece of feedback.
Do you have a Slack connector for the notification?
So we do right now for job level, and then we're going to build it for the model level. But because it's in beta, we want to collect some more feedback about, like, are we surfacing the right information and how does that groups config work before we build the Slack one. But it's very much on our list.
All right.
Do you guys have plans for like a local auto exposure? I was looking at the docs last night, and then all it looked like for Tableau.
Yeah, so the first one we built is the Tableau one, and we've been gathering feedback from customers about, like, how is the process of defining exactly what should be brought in, because you could have thousands of things in Tableau. You may not want to add 5,000 things to your lineage. The next one we're working on is Power BI, and so that one's being worked on at the moment. And then Looker and anyone else, right? Mode, other things are probably on the longer list to do after that.
Thank you. For the data trust tiles, can you embed it in any BI tools right now, or does it have to be BI tools that is connected via auto exposure?
No, so you can embed those anywhere. It's just an iframe, so you can put those wherever you want. I would say the one downside of doing it for anywhere is if you have automatically defined exposures, then as you add new models and your project changes, right, and your lineage updates, so you add a new model and goes into the dashboard, we'll know about that and update that automatically. Whereas if it's manually defined, well, you have to go back and you have to make that connection. The iframe itself should be perfectly fine. You would update the manually defined exposure just to show that it now depends on more models. But the iframe itself will keep updating, yeah, regardless.
Thank you for presentation. Did I understand it correct that these new notifications will actually notify? It will not prevent the model to actually run on top of bad data? If it does, can you somehow, let's say, prevent, run, and stop it? Yeah, we know that it will be bad. Why should we wait for it?
Yeah, so these notifications are designed to let you know when things do fail. And so let's imagine you have a test set up to fail. The model will not run, so the model's not going to run regardless because that test is set to fail. But this is about how do you know that test has failed so you can go in and fix it and maybe start another manual run once it is there. So the model will not run, but we want to tell you the model hasn't run rather than you finding out it hasn't run from someone coming and yelling at me like a week later being like, why is my data wrong?
Hey, two questions. One question is about linting. What does that linting mean? You were talking about it when the automated CI. The second question was around the health tiles. You were showing in your example, it's like one job, which is like going to Tableau. What if I have multiple jobs? In that case, is there a way to say, okay, unless all the 5 jobs are healthy, then put a tile called healthy in my Tableau?
Yeah, great questions. So yeah, so linting is basically the process of how do I enforce code standards in SQL. And so linting uses something called SQL fluff to say what are the rules about where my commas should be, what should be lowercase versus uppercase, any rules you can set custom for yourself. And a lot of people want to do that first, so you can make sure, before you even say, will my code run, you can say, has my code been written to the quality standards of my company? And so you might want to run linting first, and then only do your CI once linting has passed.
And is that in beta or?
It is in beta right now, yeah.
Okay. And as an account, can we request for it to open up to our specific accounts?
Yeah,
Okay.
come and chat to me afterwards, or chat to your account team, either one. And then for your health tile question, so kind of when you saw, I should have it out, but when you saw that in the lineage, that health tiles actually knows all of the models that are dependent on there. So it's not even dependent on a job, because obviously a job could run multiple models, right? And so the health tile showing green means that every single model and every single test defined above that in the lineage that feeds into that model is actually green.
So it's at a job level, not at a model level. The health tile is at a job level then.
Is at the health tile is at the model level, the model lineage level. So it's taking into account both the model that's everything that is being used by that dashboard has to be green in order for that tile to be green.
Wonderful. Thanks.
So related to that, so is the prerequisite to have an exposure defined in order for the health to work?
You could technically have one on a very downstream model, but it would be much better to have an exposure defined for the health tile.
And the exposure and the health tile, are those two different concepts?
So usually the health tiles are built off of an exposure. So an exposure shows like what is the terminal node in your DAG that's being used, and it can be defined both manually and automatically. And then that health tile is using the exposure because then you know exactly what in the lineage depends on that health tile.
Thank you.
Are there any concerns about scale and CI or any of the tests? Like if the data is very big, are there anything to be concerned or mindful about?
So I'd say 2 things. So first of all, both our CI and our advanced CI is using something called slim CI. So it means we're using deferral to build just the changed models and then not rebuild production. So we compare to the last production run on that one, right? And so for CI in general, probably no concerns. For advanced CI, I would say the one thing is we're not actually building the downstream one. We're using state modified rather than state modified plus, because we do actually need to do the comparison to say which rows have changed. And so there's actually a default timeout of 1 hour to go and run that. And we're working on some stuff at the moment to try and say, let's imagine if I only had 1 hour, how would I want to spend that across all of the models that's changed, and what would be the smartest way for you all to tell us which models are most important? And so we're planning future improvements there too.
Okay, that's very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. Any more questions? All right. Thank you very much for coming, everyone.